In this video, we're going to continue to look at logic, and in particular, we are going to look at conditional statements. So let's start by defining a conditional statement. A conditional statement is a statement that uses the connective if-then. Right, so it's going to be an if-then statement. The way that we denote this in our logic notation is going to be an arrow. So we would read this as P implies Q. You could also read it as if P, then Q. So that's our conditional statement. With our conditional statement here, we could say something like, if it is warm, then I will go swimming. For that, the it is warm, that is the if portion. I will go swimming, that's the then portion. So we have P implies if P, then Q. All right, so that's how we might see it in words, our conditional statement. Now, if we want to talk about these portions of the statement, the if part, that portion of that conditional statement, that has two different words or two different names we might call that. We could call that the antecedent. We also could call it the premise. So if we have this premise, then we have something happening, right? The Q part, the second part, the then part, that is the consequent. Or the conclusion. Right, so if P, then Q. The Q part is the conclusion. The P part is the premise. So if we were to look at some examples, we're going to rewrite the statement using the if-then connective. So when we see if-then statements, they don't always show up as if-then statements. Sometimes they have other types of wording. So we're going to rearrange the wording or add words as necessary. So here, our first example, it must be alive if it is breathing. So we have the if portion, if it is breathing. And the conclusion that we're able to make is if it is breathing, then it must be alive. If it is breathing, then it must be alive. The next one we read, a shopaholic has no self-control. Now that's a little bit trickier because we don't see an if anywhere. We don't see a then anywhere. So how do we write this, or how do we even interpret this as an if-then statement? So we are saying, under the premise that we have a shopaholic, the conclusion is they have no self-control. And so if we were to write this as an if-then statement, we would say, if it is a shopaholic, or if they are a shopaholic, then it has no self-control. So those are our if-then statements. We can write those, we can translate those into words, we can move our wording around. If we were to kind of continue this, we can look at symbols, and we can convert from symbols to words and vice versa. So let's look here at a couple examples. Let S represent the statement, she has a ferret for a pet. Let P represent the statement, he trains dogs. And M is the statement, they raise alpacas. So here, if we were to take this compound statement, P implies not M, then if we were to write this in words, we could say if P, but that statement P, that is, he trains dogs. So if he trains dogs, the arrow is our then portion. It's setting up the if-then connective. So if he trains dogs, then, so that tilde, that represents not, so then not M. So they don't raise alpacas. We could also move from words to symbols, right? So we could say, if he does not train dogs, so this is not P, so he does not train dogs, then she has a ferret, so she has a ferret, that is statement S for a pet, or we use the connective, that V is our or statement, or they raise alpacas, and that is statement M. So if not P, then S or M. So that is how we would put that all together. Not P implies either S or M. If he does not train dogs, then she has a ferret or they raise alpacas. Good. So in our next video, we will look at how do we, what does a truth table look like for if-then statements, and then we will go through some other ideas and examples. We will see you there.